Mew. What's next? The sequel? Mewtwo? So Mewtwo really hasn't been a great deck since it came out. It's done nothing, right? Its biggest accomplishment was becoming a League Battle deck. And since it became a League Battle deck, you know Pokemon wanted this thing to succeed, right? They thought this was gonna be the shit. Instead it was shit. And arguably still is, but I think it's not. I think this deck is actually really good, but not because the deck is good. I think the deck is still cheeks. I just think it has a really good thing going for it. Weakness. So there's weakness and resistance in the Pokemon trading card game. The resistance is very simple. It's just if you're resisting something, you deal minus like 30 damage to it. So for example, flying Pokemon are resistant to fighting Pokemon, right? So they take 30 less damage from attacks. Now you might be thinking, then obviously the weakness would just be a simple plus 30. So obviously flying Pokemon are weak to lightning, meaning then they would take plus 30 from attacks. No. They take double damage. Weakness is applied as a double damage. So if you're dealing 100 damage to a Pokemon, you're now dealing 200 damage to that Pokemon, which is definitely a bit of a problem, right? It's in fact it's such a problem that this Pokemon's entire existence is to give a Pokemon a weakness, right? Otherwise that Pokemon would be the greatest card ever printed because it doesn't have a weakness unless this specific card is in play, right? In fact, notice how all of these are Team Rockets Pokemon, and this one's not. It goes against the entire identity of this deck just because of weakness. So weakness is a big problem in the game. And I think right now the reason Mewtwo is so good is because it hits some pretty good weaknesses. Like we've already established, weakness is good. So what weakness does this hit? Spidops is the first good one, right? There's a lot of grass-weak cards in the format right now, such as Zoroark and Garchomp. Those are kind of like the big two, in my opinion. I think Zoroark, if it wasn't weak to grass and weak to something more irrelevant like lightning, it would be a really difficult deck to check. It is a very strong deck, and I think it has some really good like capabilities. I'm a Zoroark Glazer, my bad. Alright, you got me, right? I'm guilty as charged, or whatever the saying is. It's a really strong deck. But it doesn't matter when you're getting 1v1 by some spiders, right? Zoroark's got arachnophobia, and it just demolishes that, right? Then you've got Mimikyu, and this is where the Clefairy comes in. Dragapult is the best deck in the game, right? There's nothing else to it. It's just the best deck in the game, and fair enough. It's fucking broken, right? Dragapult has a built-in draw engine, does a lot of damage, spreads damage, and it's good. Doesn't have a weakness, unless they bench Clefairy. So Clefairy says each dragon Pokemon in play is weak to Psychic, right? Because dragon Pokemon tend to not have a weakness, even though I think they should be weak to Dragon, because, that's kind of how it is in the games. In fact, that would be really cool. Imagine, like, you're weak to the same thing you are. But hey, alright, fucking not my job, and I wish it was. I genuinely think this game would be better if it was my job. But instead, it's my job to bitch and moan about it, right? That's a much better job, isn't it? Anyway, we've got Clefairy, which keeps Dragapult in check, but we've got something else which keeps Dragapult in check. It's the Team Rockets Mimikyu. It has one attack for 0 damage, but it copies one of your opponent's Terra Pokemon attacks. And Dragapult is a Terra Pokemon. So if we have this guy in play, it means Dragapult is weak to Psychic Pokemon, right? And since this guy is a Psychic Pokemon, it means Dragapult is weak to him. And if we use his attack and copy our opponent's Dragapult's attack, Phantom Dive, we're now dealing, instead of 200 damage, right? We're dealing 400 damage to a Pokemon that has 320 HP, so he dies, like a Giga Death. And then we also deal 60 damage to the bench, so we can kill something like a Duskull, or just spread some damage so that Mewtwo can come in next turn to finish the job, right? So it's really good. You just kind of abolish your opponent's board state, right? But you might be thinking, oh, Little Bro has 60 HP. All that's going to happen next turn is that there's going to be another Dragapult coming in. They're going to boss up the Clefairy, right? And they're going to deal 200 damage to kill the Clefairy and put 60 damage counters on your Mimikyu, and it dies. Yes. But Articuno exists, right? And it has an ability called Repelling Veil, which prevents all effective attacks done to your basic Team Rockets Pokemon in play. So since damage counters are considered an effective attack, it doesn't deal the damage to it, right? It's prevented, it's pretty cool, right? It means your Mimikyu lives, and on top of that, it means when you don't evolve your Tarantula into Spidops, they survive as well, right? And your Team Rockets Mewtwo, it doesn't take the damage counters either. It just also makes something one of the other big matchups in the game very easy, right? In fact, let's go scroll over to Team Rockets Mewtwo. Look at the matchups here, right? So Dragapult is 55. Then we got 48% for Dragapult Blaziken. That's not a real deck though, and I don't know how people are losing to that deck, but fair enough. And then look at this stuff, right? We've got Lucario Hariyama, which is another one of the big three. This is the big three. We've got Dragapult, and then we've got Luke, and then we've got Ala, right? So in my opinion, Dragapult beats... let's use a different colored pen here. Dragapult beats Alakazam, right? Alakazam beats Lucario, right? And Lucario beats Dragapult. Debatable, right? But this is like the love triangle, right? This is the... Also, did you know that single dollar like bills have the Illuminati sign on them? What? Why? Let me know down below. I'm not even kidding. Check. I don't know why I got a fucking dollar here, because I live in South Africa and I've never lived in America. But like, look at that shit, dude. What? What? Bar. Anyway, so you might be thinking, where does Mewtwo slot into this love triangle? In the middle, right? And it's a spiky ball because it beats all of these, right? We've already spoken about how it beats Dragapult. How it beats Lucario, weakness. Lucario's weak to Psychic. You're a Psychic type. Simple math, to be honest. You just blow them up and stuff. You know, very, very easy. And then how does it beat Alakazam? Alakazam is a Psychic type as well. You don't hit it for weakness. It's a one-prizer. On paper, it should have a better matchup into you than you do into it. However, remember how I said Articuno prevents damage effects of attacks, not damage? If it prevented damage, that'll be fucking busted. But it prevents effects of attacks. So you might be thinking, well, what does Alakazam have anything to do with that? Well, it's because if we read Alakazam's attack, it's a little silly, right? So it says place 2 damage counters. Ooh, yeah, didn't want to see that word there. Didn't want to see that damage counters. That one's a bad word to have, especially when Articuno prevents that. So basically what I'm saying is Alakazam can't deal damage to you, right? Alakazam just doesn't damage you. So as long as you don't evolve, which you don't have to because you attack with Mewtwo, your opponent can't do anything to you, right? So it's kind of broken. it's pretty good, right? It is pretty good. And then we've got Zoroark, which is another. It's probably not the biggest deck out there, but I mean, look at these matchup spreads, bro. 55% Dragapult, 48%. I'll call that a 50. You know what? We'll round up a little bit, right? Let's say a 50-50 in the Dragapult Blaziken, a 62 into Lucario Hariyama, and 80, oh lolo, into Alakazam Dunsparce, 62 into the other Dragapult, 60 into Zoroark, 29 into Ogre. What the fuck? How are you losing? 23 into Starmie Frostlass, brother. What? Who are these people? Who are these AIs playing Rockets Mewtwo? That is not... Huh. I might have to play these matchups a little bit later. Alright, I'll get back to you on these. But for now, it doesn't run the agenda I'm trying to make in this video, so let's just do a little... 70%, 65%. And then if you just take a look down here, against Ogerpon Meganium, a 65% win rate, and against Tommy Frostlass, 70% win rate, right? This deck's broken, right? It has the best matchups on paper. However, the game is not played on paper. It is played on the playmat. And that's the problem with this deck, right? Is that it doesn't have a built-in draw engine. Dragapult is so good. Not because it's incredibly powerful. Not because, like, the attack is stupid and broken. But because it has a built-in draw engine, right? A lot of decks that have done really well and will continue to do really well are decks with built-in draw engines, right? For example, let's take a look at Arceus. Arceus V-Star is probably the best example of this. It didn't have a built-in draw engine, but it had a built-in, I'm going to set up in a single turn engine called Starbirth, right? It had an ability which you could only use once per game, which just search your deck for 2 cards, right? Usually it was, you know, Switch and DTE, but besides the point, you could just get whatever cards you wanted to, right? Dragapult, built-in draw engine. Gardevoir beforehand with Refinement, built-in draw engine. Original Zoroark GX, built-in draw engine. Current Zoroark EX, built-in draw engine. All these decks are really good, even though they might not have the highest power cap. You know, Zoroark doesn't do 10 billion damage. Old Zoroark also didn't do 10 billion damage. Arceus didn't do a lot of damage at all, actually. It was 200 damage, but since you were usually using DTE, which minus your damage by 20, it was usually 180, right? But it was consistent. It was consistently able to set up and be able to play the game. And that's something that a lot of decks struggle with nowadays, is that they aren't able to actually play the game. That's why you see a lot of these decks, like Alakazam, people tend to favor these decks, like Alakazam, like Lucario, like Dragapult, like Zoroark, because they have a built-in draw engine, right? If we look at the top 10 decks over here, like just like this, I'd say, right? The higher up we go, the more of a draw engine these decks have. When the lower you go, the less of a draw engine you have. Coincidence? Could be, right? Probably not, though, because Dragapult draw engine, Dragapult Blaziken draw engine, Lucario Hariyama draw engine, Alakazam Dunsparce draw engine, Rockets Mewtwo, we'll get to that now, Dragapult Dunsparce draw engine, and Zoroark draw engine. Ogerpon Meganium, like, kinda, I guess Teal Dance is like maybe, we'll do like a maybe draw engine, and Starmie Frostlass, no draw engine, Grimmsnarl Frostlass, no draw engine, right? The bottom two decks don't have a draw engine. This one kinda has a draw engine. These guys, obviously, have a draw engine. And then we get to Team Rockets Mewtwo, which is in a bit of a sandwich here, right? This just also does not have, let's just do this color. This does not have a draw engine. There is no draw engine with Team Rockets Mewtwo. But it does have Heart, and it does have the power of evil, right? It is Team Rocket's deck. And it does have something that a lot of these decks don't have. It has an ecosystem, right? All these cards work together, right? Spidops does more damage for each Team Rockets Pokemon you have in play. Mewtwo can only attack if you have a bunch of Team Rockets Pokemon in play. Lilies will ignore these two. These two don't exist and don't work with my agenda, so you don't exist. Articuno prevents the damage done to your basic Team Rockets Pokemon, right? Giovanni is like the greatest card ever, Guzma, but only for Team Rockets Pokemon. It's like Boss, but you also get to switch, right? Ariana lets you draw until 8 cards every single turn, but only if you have Team Rockets Pokemon in play. Archer is the only good, other than on Face Stamp, it's literally on Face Stamp as a supporter, but your opponent gets 1 extra card, as, you know, it's a supporter, but it only works if one of your Team Rockets Pokemon died on the previous turn. And then Team Rockets Proton literally breaks the game. You can use it on your first turn, right? And there's not a lot of supporters. In fact, there's only 2 supporters in the game that you can use on your first turn. One of them's Carmine, and another one's Team Rockets Proton. But Team Rockets Proton is probably better because it lets you set up your entire board state, because you can just use it and search your deck for 3 Team Rockets Pokemon and slap them on your bench. Basic ones, obviously, but, you know, it only works for Team Rockets Pokemon. Team Rockets Petrol has nothing to do with Team Rockets. Absolute fraud. Don't know what he's doing there. Right, you might be thinking, oh, that's cool, you know, you have supporters, which are really good for your environment, right? But what else do you have? Well, you have Team Rocket's Watch Transceiver, which is Meowth, but an item. Pretty good, if you ask me. Oh, I need Boss's Orders. Item for it. Oh, I need to draw cards. Item for it. Oh, I need on Face Stamp. Item for it. Oh, I have one of my Transceivers and I want to set my entire board turn 1. Item for it. Oh, I need Petrol. No one has ever said that, ever, but item for it. Right? It's pretty good. It's really good, actually, believe it or not. Right? It is really good. And then you have Team Rocket's Factory, which just supplements all of these cards really, really well. So what does Team Rocket's Factory do? It lets you draw 2 extra cards if you used a supporter. If you use a Team Rocket supporter on that turn. So imagine using Boss and also drawing 2 cards, because fuck you, why not, right? You can set up your entire board with Proton and then draw 2 cards, because fuck you, why not? You can disrupt your opponent and draw 7 cards while your opponent draws 3. I'm drawing underneath my thing. 7 cards while your opponent draws 3, right? Kind of wants 7 over 3. 3 is a smaller number to 7. And then Ariana lets you draw until 8, and with Team Rocket's Factory in play, essentially you're drawing until 10 cards, right? That is a lot. That is a lot of cards, right? That is a good chunk. That is a 1/6 of your deck. And obviously with prize cards and stuff, that is like a 1/5 of your deck. So it is pretty damn good. This deck is really good. It has a really good like ecosystem, like environment stuff. It has answers to everything. Mewtwo is a basic with a lot of HP that's only worth 2 prize cards, and not a lot of Pokemon can actually deal with Mewtwo right now. Mewtwo in itself is a really strong attacker. Then you've got Spidops, which is a really good Pokemon that can deal with a lot of like these 2 prize decks just on its own. If your opponent is playing like 210 HP Ogerpons, well, you can do 180 with the Spidops if you have 5 Team Rockets Pokemon in play, but with Brave Bangle, you're doing 210, right? And with Max Belt, you're doing 230, right? So it is really good. But you might be thinking, all right, well, where is this damage? Like, what happens if your opponent, let's say, puts down a big HP Pokemon that isn't weak to Team Rocket's Mewtwo, that isn't Dragapult, or isn't Lucario, right? Well, then you have your Ace Spec, which is Max Belt. And Max Belt is really good because it lets Mewtwo deal 320 damage. And this is a very good number to hit because this is kind of like where all these Stage 2 Pokemon, like, I guess, currently relevant Stage 2 Pokemon are kind of at with its health. Dragapult, Blaziken, right? Blaziken has 320, right? And it's not weak to the Psychic, so obviously it's pretty good. And then Arbolivat's 310 means you kill that as well. So it just has these answers. It is just a pretty good deck. And honestly, I think this deck is not as good as it sounds, but just being able to hit so many things for weakness and just having literal auto wins into decks like Alakazam, it's just too good to pass up right now. If I was going to Prague, I would probably be playing Team Rockets Mewtwo. I think its matchup spread is just insanely good. I'm lying. I would be playing Zoroark. I would love to subject myself to that torture that is Zoroark. More Zoroark content soon. If you guys like it, smash subscribe.